What's going on, football fans? It's me, JR Clark, back again with another Pound for Pound ATL Live, twice in 1 week. As always, I'm joined by my main
Yep.
man, Jonathan Holder. What's going on, John? How you doing, brother?
Man, I am doing great. It's been a great week. Been on vacation, so been able to just absorb it all and think about where we're at and where we're going. And I like what we've done so far. So
Yeah, and that's kind of like Tuesday's show. The reason why we're doing this live again on Thursday is because Tuesday's show was like so packed, right? With announcement after announcement, news after news. We also had Daniel Flick on from SI. So we weren't able to have our normal like flow of the show where, me and you chat and then we chat with the chat and that kind of stuff. So we felt like it would be best served to try to do some of our normal type show today. So, um, hey, we got somebody who Anthony made it in from Puerto Rico. So that is
man,
like that's see,
representing from Puerto Rico.
that's right. That's the kind of stuff that we were unfortunately weren't able to. Bliss says, "Stop lying. Just say you miss us, Jr. I do miss you, Bliss.
We
I
do
do.
miss you
That's
guys.
right. That's right. Miss all y'all. Miss chatting with y'all. Like I said, felt not felt bad. That's not the right way to say it. Like, felt a little uh, off balanced in a sense. Like I said, from not being able to give our normal show, so we felt like this is the best deal to talk about what's going on with the team. Obviously, fun, exciting times right now, and get y'all's real reactions and all that other good stuff. So I guess without much further ado, we might as well just get on into it. All right. So today we got a lot of the like officials come through in a sense of you're starting to get the nice team official splashes on Twitter with pictures of guys putting pen to paper. Started with Tyler Henneke. And
Yep.
then the one that I think everybody was kind of holding their breath for because like maybe it wasn't going to happen or something, because you didn't get anything official yet. But we finally got the picture of Jesse Bates in Flowery Branch signing, his contract. So that was really cool to see, um, to see him doing, in the building, talking to the media. It's, like officially official. The
Yep.
only one as of yet that we haven't seen is David Onyemata, if I'm not
Yep.
mistaken. We finally got Caden Ellis. We finally got like I said, Tyler Henneke, Caden Ellis, Jesse Bates, and the one that we're still waiting on to be officially official is David Onyemata. So now that all this stuff is kind of like really like sinking in and settling in, what are your thoughts on what the team has done so far?
I think I think what we've done so far has been really good. Okay, you had some guys. I'm assuming the guys that they got already were guys that they really targeted as must-haves. Like these are guys we have to have. These are things that we really want to get done. And so my idea here is that they targeted these moves to begin with, went and got them done.
Right.
And they got them done in most cases, or in every case. I don't think any case I've seen so far has been outrageous as far as like structuring of deals. You know, yeah, people can talk about the Chris Lindstrom deal as like you're going to pay a guard that much. Yes, you're going to pay a guard that much money.
Especially
You
that
know,
guard.
especially like the what is in a lot. I mean, he's arguably the best. So like
Right.
Joel Batonio and guys like him. There are other guys that somebody could potentially say is the best in the league, but like overall, this guy's been not just a great player on the field. He's been a great guy in the locker room, been a great guy in the community, and you reward that. And we talked about
Exactly.
that in the previous stream. So, but outside of that mega deal, like every other deal has been really good in that we didn't overpay for free agents like we've done in the past. So we're not hamstringing ourselves, in a couple of years when we're able to go into this offseason, plug some holes.
Mm-hmm.
There's a good chance that we go into the season with some of the things that we talked about last year as being holes, maybe not being filled exactly the way everybody wants them to be. But you can't do everything all in one offseason. You just can't.
Right.
Even with the kind of money that we had, even if we had the kind of money that the Bears had, because the Bears in their situation, they were kind of like the Raiders were a few years back, where they were just spending money and over. They I don't think anybody was grossly overpaid, but they
No.
were they were giving guys money that probably not a lot of other teams were going to give simply because they had to spend money. They had to get to
Right.
the
They got to
floor.
get to the floor. Exactly.
Right, so they didn't go out there and do that. And I think what we've done to this point has been really good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I look forward to it's obviously it's slowed down. We had the big splash on day one of tampering, um, and now I think once we get through with these guys, I think we'll definitely have some more movement. But I think it'll be much more of a trickle from here on
Right.
out instead of 3-4 guys all at the same time.
And yeah, I completely agree with that initial assessment. Uh, D Jerome here says, "Bro, we got us a team this year." Uh, yes, and like in a sense, like we are going to be um, fielding a more respectable team this year. Now
Yes.
we're going to see if that's going to translate into more wins. But I have to feel like if Arthur Smith and company were able to eke out 7 wins with the roster that we had, last year and the year before, I'm curious to see what they're going to be able to do this year with what is shaping up to be a more, competent roster. So, yeah, I'm super excited as of what we have done so far, and I'm also excited to see where we go, from here as far as moves go. Andrew Botto says, "What's good, fellas? Long time listener. Been a minute since I've joined the live stream. Hope you guys are well. We are well.
Yes, we are.
For joining us. Thank you for supporting us. Thank y'all all for supporting us. Uh,
Yeah.
let's see.
Well, so I saw here,
Just 52.
Falcons Empire. A little disappointed we didn't grab a left guard because we only have one, Jalen Mayfield. That's on the squad.
See,
Who knows?
that's incorrect.
Yeah, we do have Hennessy.
And
Uh,
I was thinking about Hennessy today, and I looked at it. Okay, in the snaps that he had like 150, 160 snaps,
mhm.
and he had in those 160 snaps, he had 5 blown blocks, and you're like, okay, so what's the correlation there? That's like 3.8 blown blocks a game. You extrapolate that out to a 17 game season, and that would be about 30 blown blocks. If Chris Lindstrom is the best right guard in the game, he had 20 blown blocks last year. Okay.
Mhm.
So if you're telling me that Hennessy can produce 10 more,
Mhm.
you know, that's not a bad it's not a bad left guard to leave out there to compete,
Yep.
And he played pretty decent at the end of last year. The few games that Wilkerson missed, and they may even bring Wilkerson back on a very cheap deal, because when he was in
Yep.
there, he played okay.
Also, Chuma Adoga. I mean,
Right.
like I'm not saying he was the best guy out there, but I saw, the times I saw him out there,
He didn't
it
look
wasn't
horrible.
it wasn't an embarrassment. If you're gonna have one weak link, one, and I would rather it be one of the two guards,
Yeah.
because you can compensate somewhat there. I don't want a weak link being my center, and I don't want because he's the guy that's got to make the decision. Do I go left, right,
Mhm.
or sometimes he's got to be an anchor against a nose tackle who's right over him. But also, I don't want either one of my tackles to be the weak link, so if I got to have a weak link, my left guard being the weak link, and being somewhat of an average left guard at that is not a bad thing to be. So.
Right. And then, Chris puts up Hennessy's on his final year, so So hope he McGarry's out.
Yep.
Yeah, in a sense, like, but you got to think, Hennessy was brought in as a center to replace Alex Mack. Didn't go well for him the 1 year he got as a starter.
Hmm.
Um, but then new regime comes in. He doesn't beat out Dahlman this last year. So like if they do roll with him as a left guard, maybe having a full off season of saying, okay, this is what I'm going to be, da 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 da, like a true plan going forward, may be what he needs. So we'll see how that, and that's saying that everything stands pat right now. They may be trusting in um, what Ledford can do, and also
Yeah.
keep in mind you drafted Justin Schaefer last year,
Yep.
so
He might be on the Richie Grant development train where they bring
right,
him in. He doesn't see hardly any action the first year. Just let him sit and develop and learn and what have you, and then maybe obviously they'll see what happens in like the OTAs and in training camp. And if the guy comes out and he's the winner, then he's the winner.
right,
But at the end of the day, like that may be their thought process with Schaefer is let him sit for a year. We'll see
let
what
him learn,
happens. We'll see what happens come year two, and go from there. So,
right.
because you could, that's the reason why. Yes, we had Ben Jones out there. Yes, there was another guy out there as far as centers go. And honestly, the market for centers wasn't like super crazy. So we probably could have gotten Ben Jones or one of those guys for a decent deal. But I think that's the reason why you're not
Oh,
seeing any movement there.
we finally got the full confirmation on Yamada.
Oh, we
Uh,
did.
yeah, the splash just came across the timeline with Onyemata's little card, I guess you could say.
I
So that's
got you.
good. So that's everybody that we have been reported to have signed. So it's good that nobody flipped, nobody did nothing crazy, and we don't have to deal with that. Um, Project Warriors got a pretty good question here because I got a question for you guys.
All right.
These Panthers fans seem to think nobody can beat them this coming season. They were similar to us last year, and we got significantly better. What do you guys think? All right, I'm gonna. I was thinking about this earlier today when I was driving down the road about like what should be the expectations for the Atlanta Falcons this year, and I thought to myself initially like the expectations given where the NFC South is currently should be that we should be contending with I would say New Orleans for the NFC South. I think that should be the expectation rolling in is that you should feel like that you have a better than a average chance of winning the South. And then that brought me to the Panthers, right?
Mhm.
Because they had a decent team last year that had a good defense, but their offense was kind of in shambles. Now they have traded away their number one wide receiver, so keep that in mind. And they don't necessarily have a quarterback. Okay. And now you're dealing with a whole new coaching staff. So I don't expect the Panthers to be a contender in the NFC South this year. Um, but I think they have the best chance to be in the mix with us for the next few years coming. Is kind of how I'm looking at it. But this coming season, I just can't see them contending right away.
So the only thing I'll say is uh, outside of outside of New Orleans, I would say that Carolina's defense I like the most.
Right.
Um, so their defense, and they haven't really lost a ton on defense. They still have a good chunk of their guys there. Um, Now, granted, who's their defensive coordinator this year?
I see. I'm trying to remember. I can't remember who Frank Reich brought with him. I thought it was somebody that was relatively impressive as far as names went, but I can't remember who they ended
Oh,
up signing.
Ejiro Evero.
Oh, Evero. Okay,
Okay,
so
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 now,
Evero.
yeah, if this guy comes in and he's what we think he is, kind of a younger um, protege to what's his face,
Fangio.
Fangio.
Yep.
I mean, if he's that guy and he's that good of a DC, and not just, hey, I'm a really good DC in Denver.
Right.
Yeah, because I'm running Fangio's defense, but I also have Fangio's players. Yeah, I have some really good, stout, like real good defensive players. Now they got some real good defensive players in Carolina. I think mostly in the front seven.
Yeah, you
Their
got
secondary
Brian
is
Burns. You got Derek Brown.
yes,
Derek was that his name? Derek Brown,
I believe so.
the DT out of Auburn. The same year
Yep,
we drafted Marlon Davidson. Um, you got him. Then obviously you got J.C. Horn in the secondary.
yep.
They brought back Shaq Thompson, or Thomas, their linebacker. Um, but yeah, I think it is. I think the Panthers, like, because he brings up a point here, to add to it. He says, I just don't think the Panthers taking a rookie QB, no matter who it is going to be able to get them to the title without some development. I agree that we will likely contend with the Aints this year. And I think that's where it stands, because
Yeah.
they trade up to one. So they trade assets away to get up to one, and they trade away DJ Moore, which is a very productive wide receiver, even with the crap that they were trotting out there at the quarterback position, from Sam Darnold to Baker Mayfield to um, Teddy Bridgewater, PJ Walker. That revolving door that uh, Matt Reel had going up there.
Oh yeah, Matt Rule.
Rule, that's it. Matt Rule had it going up there. DJ Moore was still a formidable wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm actually kind of excited in a weird way for uh, him to go to Chicago with Justin Fields, because now it's almost like a put up or shut up. Like, you got a true wide receiver. So, can you do what everybody thinks you can do? I'm interested
And
about that.
I I kind of, and we've heard talk that their front office and the coaching staff, there's some difference of opinion about who to go for
Right.
at number one. Apparently Frank Reich is really liking Anthony Richardson.
Yep.
But Tepper is maybe more in the CJ Stroud camp.
Then
Um,
then I heard today, like, Bryce Young is like, the fact that you trade up to number one and you don't know.
well, as far as
Okay,
what we're
as far as
hearing is that they don't
what
know.
we're hearing, the fact, like, what we should be hearing out of the Panthers organization is, we know who we're getting, or we feel extremely strong about one quarterback. The fact that you don't have to tell us who it is, per se,
Yeah.
but the fact that you're getting these conflicting reports after you traded away 4 or 5 picks and a player to get up to number one is a little concerning, to me, if I'm a Panthers fan.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I think my hope, if they stand pat, right? Because there's also the rumor apparently that they were looking to trade back at right after they traded. It was almost like,
oh,
I'm assuming the thought process would be, let's go to number one, then we can pick a quarterback. Or there was also talk that the Colts wanted to get to number one, so maybe you then trade back to they're what, 3 or are they 4?
they
They're
were
4.
called 4, yeah.
Yeah. So maybe they trade back to 4, figuring they'll get like one of the guys will be available, and they can kind of get some of their. But again, like if that was the case, like why give up so much to get
Yeah,
up there? And
like I
you're
said,
not
it
going to
was
get
just
as
weird.
you're not going to get as much back as you gave out, simply
Oh God, no.
because
That's
the
just not how the
jump from
market
3 to
works.
1 is not nearly from 9 to 1.
9-1, right?
So
Yep.
my I think personally, and Chat can disagree, and that's perfectly fine.
No.
I honestly think that the best case scenario for us as Falcons fans is if he takes AR-15. if it takes Anthony Richardson. I think
Yeah, I
that's
mean
the
I would like that because that's far more development needed in that scenario, him or Will Levis, than if they land somebody like a Bryce Young or a CJ Stroud. I don't want Bryce Young or
I mean,
CJ Stroud in this division if I can help it.
I would actually be okay with Bryce Young.
I would be okay just because of his stature, and I think
Yeah,
those are going to present its own problems. But uh, I think that he has he like Bryce Young has it upstairs, like as far as processing and accuracy, decision making, that kind of stuff. He has that in spades, and you can like in a lot of ways you can work with that, right? Um, but
yeah.
so but anyway, so yeah, there's a comment up here towards the top of the chat that I wanted to get to. He says, "Am I the only one who really wants C.J. Gardner Johnson to pair with Jesse Bates and Richie Grant in the slot role? Can't believe C.J. is still available. I want him, but I think the reason why C.J. is still available is because the amount of money he wants. Like, does that make sense?
I mean, it could be part of that, but it also could be a bidding war that's going on that we're just
Right.
not hearing about.
I just don't see like I don't see you paying CJ like if he wants the money I think he probably wants. That's pretty close to what Bates is getting. And so I
Yeah,
don't think you're going to pay that much for a slot guy even if you do view him as a starter. You know? So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that lays out. I still think we grab a corner before. Well, we may not grab a corner. We may grab a corner in the draft, and I still think we start the season with Hayward being opposite of Terrell. Let's
yeah. Well,
see.
and I just think if we go with a cornerback, we may be waiting to see like how things pan out in the draft.
Yeah,
And do we pick up a Gonzalez? If we pick up a Gonzalez, then maybe we don't need a cornerback.
right.
If we pick Jalen Carter because he's fell to 8, then then we go out and
Then
see
you
if we
might.
can get a guy.
Yep,
So, but
exactly.
again, based on some of the stuff from like Bates's interviews today, it sounds like at least in his mind he thinks Hayward is part of the group. So if they're not getting rid of
Yeah,
him, there's
and that's
just maybe not as much room out there.
right. Exactly. Appreciate that, Fred Butts with the $2.
Thanks, Fred.
He says I think Carter will fall to us. Pitt will be Uh, wary two. Oh, wide
What?
receiver two.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
wide
wide receiver
Pitts will
too.
be wide receiver two. Okay. Oh, okay. That's two different statements. So I want to address the second one first. I think in this offense with this coaching staff, we need to quit thinking about it in the form of wide receiver one, wide receiver two, wide receiver three. I want to start a campaign to change it to target one, target two, and target three.
And
And I
target
think,
4.
well, yeah, target, well, yeah, and going, cascading down. I honestly think your target one, when healthy, is Pitts. Your target two is Drake London. You can say that's 1A, 1B, but it just in the fact of numerical order, I think Pitts is target one, London is target two, Janu Smith is target three. And then whoever they bring in that we would classify as wide receiver two ends up being target four. So that could be an Olamide Zacchaeus coming back
Hmm.
because he's still out there. That could be a DJ Chark. Uh, we were in on Darius Slayton from the New York Giants. I think the idea there is that I think the second receiver, third receiver, really, third target, that move was made when you traded for Janu Smith, in my
Hmm.
opinion. And that's how I'm choosing to look at it. And I encourage everybody with this offense to choose to look at it the same way. As in, instead of wide receiver one and two, tight end one and two, see it as target one, two, and three. I think that's the better way to look at that. And that was the second part of your statement. The first part says, I think Carter will fall. He definitely didn't help himself at their pro day yesterday. Uh, like he came in supposedly 9 pounds heavier than he was at the combine, which was just 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Um, and he looked slow and sluggish during his position drills. Still didn't run the 40.
Well, he didn't finish a lot of his drills,
Right.
apparently, or I don't know how many. I'm not gonna say a lot. I just saw the term, and I saw it from a couple more than one place that he wasn't finishing his drills.
Right.
Um, you
And
know, go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
was just gonna say, and it's like he's going through quite a bit right now, and I get that. I honestly do. But put this in what I'm gonna call real world analogy for y'all. If you're going to a job interview and you just have a bad job interview, you could be fully qualified, fully like you could be the best possible candidate.
Mhm.
But if you walk in there and you looking disheveled, you don't look the guy, the whoever you're talking to, guy or gal, if you don't look them in the eye, if you don't give them a firm handshake, and you look unorganized, there's good chances you're not going to get that job, regardless of what your qualifications are. Now, I will say, in like Jalen Carter, like tape don't lie. Like you have that to look on
Mhm.
and see what he looks like on the field. Tape don't lie. But the combine and everything else is supposed to reinforce what you see on tape and give the NFL its first exposure of you to the rigorous on field, off field stuff of the NFL. As far as like dealing with the media, can you be prompt in meetings and all this other stuff?
Mhm.
Like, if he's slacking on that, there's a really, really good chance that he is going to fall. I don't think he falls out of the top 10 at all. And I don't think he falls past us at 8, to be complete. That's not even being biased.
I think it really depends on his state of mind. Okay, and because we know what kind of player Arthur Smith likes, not just height, weight, speed, all those things. We know the mentality of the kind of guys that he likes. He
Right.
likes guys with that can handle adversity, stick it out, and still give everything he got. Now, I'm not saying that because this Jalen Carter gained 9 pounds and he was this and that, the other, that he wasn't giving everything he had on that day. Not
Right.
saying that at all. I'm simply saying that's the kind of person that they look for. They look for those kind of people. So if there is anything, whether it's in the pro day, whether it's in the conversations they had at the combine, whether it's anything else that they hear about, in the background checks and then this and that and the other, that gives them pause to think this guy is not like, for example, a Grady Jarrett.
Right.
Like if he's not that guy who is going in and he's a professional, he's going to give everything he's got. Doesn't matter what the score is. He's going to try and win every single rep that he plays. All right. Do they feel like Jalen Carter's that kind of guy? And now it could also be they feel like, yes, this guy was in an accident very recently, or was in a situation very recently, and there were fatalities.
Yep.
One of his friends died,
Passed away.
passed away in that
And he's
particular
under a
situation,
microscope and all
and
that.
he's under a microscope. He's under a microscope. He had to go deal with the police and all that. If that's the case, and they feel like that's stuff that's like weighing him down, do they feel like bringing him into a room with Grady Jarrett, with Onyemata, with Taquan Graham, and those guys? Do they feel like they could be good mentors and
Right.
actually make a difference? If they feel like that's the case, or at the very least that it's worth taking a chance on it, that will work out, then he doesn't fall past 8 if he even falls
Right.
that far.
Now Jerome says I think Grady and Onyemata would be just what Jalen needs, echoing what you said there. Now Wallace Smith says something here is interesting. He says we're not drafting a DT with our 8th pick. Bruh, I hate to inform you, we drafted a tight end with our 4th pick. So
Yep.
I don't put like they are this team or this regime, these past 2 drafts are exactly what everybody screamed for years with TD. They are a BPA team, straight up and down. And if they hadn't shown you that in these past 2 drafts, I think you'll see it again. Because if Jalen Carter's there, they're taking him at 8. I can almost guarantee you
Yeah.
that they're going to do that.
Now the other thing that I personally have thought about is, okay, if you take Jalen Carter, let's say, I don't know this for a fact, but
Uh-huh.
let's say one of the reasons why is because of all the pressure that he's been under recently with the accident, having to deal with the authorities, the arrest. Now, obviously, it sounds like that part has basically been taken care of.
Right,
No jail
probation,
time,
nothing major
probation,
there.
community service, all that stuff. And maybe that'll help him move past that. All
Right,
right. If he does, then great. But now you then plop him into Atlanta, where he's the hometown kid.
yep,
He's playing in front of a bunch of people that already know him, and the
already love him.
expectation already love him. But it's almost a Hayward situation of like the expectations for Jalen Carter in
Oh
Atlanta,
yeah.
playing in front of the home crowd with those expectations. Is that something that he can handle? Right. Um, my hope is that he can, and my hope is that he falls to 8 and we take him and he turns into the guy that we all think he is, or that he's capable of being. That's what I
Right,
hope happens with him. But it's been a tough time for him, and we'll see how he comes out on the other end of that.
right. All right. Wallace. No, I completely agree. Okay, he says if we didn't draft Jordan Davis with their 8th pick last year, what makes you think they're going to draft Jalen Carter with the 8th pick this year? Different years,
Yeah,
different talent pool. What happened last year when we drafted Drake London? What happened directly after that? There was a gigantic run on wide receivers.
mm-hmm.
So that's that is what I'll say there. But mainly it's because it's a different year and it's a different draft pool. So, like to be completely honest with you, if they make a few more moves in free agency here, whether it be getting a wide receiver too, getting another cornerback, potentially adding another linebacker, or whatever, I wouldn't put it past them to draft Bijan Robinson at 8, just
Yeah.
because. Like I really
I mean,
wouldn't.
yeah, him or like Bijan Robinson. If they literally look at the two guys, Bijan and Jalen, they have their choice between those two guys. And Bijan has done the interviews. He's been on time to his meetings. He's shown out and showed that he was prepared for his pro day. He was prepared for the combine. He was prepared for all these things, right? And then you go to Jalen Carter, where yeah, he was going through some stuff, but I mean, this is a job interview, so be prepared for that day when it comes. And if you got those two guys side by side, it's like, which one do we think is like better prepared to be a pro right now? And Bijan looks like that guy. I absolutely would not put it past him
Yeah.
to to
Uh,
to pick him.
Okay, well, last little bit, we're gonna wrap up the Jalen Carter thing. Tony Wright says Jalen Carter got whooped against Ohio State in the college playoff and kept having to leave the game over and over again from being winded. Okay, I don't know if you realize this, and I'm not trying to call you out, Tony, because I love when you're in here with us, but it has been confirmed that over 11 guys had the flu in that game. Like over 11 guys on that team had the flu, and it wasn't just Carter who was having to leave the field because I don't know if you've ever tried to do anything productive while you had the flu. It tends not to go well. They had absolutely no problem. Carter had absolutely no problem whatsoever running around, chasing down Max Duggan and those other guys in the TCU game. So I think the winded look, no, it surely doesn't help that he looked winded and overwhelmed
Yeah.
at his pro day. It does not help one bit. And I'm not trying to make I'm not trying to make an excuse for Carter at all, to be honest with you. But it is, Tony says you could call me. I ain't trying to call you out. I'm just like when I see something like that, like and I have the information, and, I like to make sure it gets across. Sometimes I don't do it great,
I
but
I'll say this at this point, to be completely honest, uh, with what we know of the quarterbacks that will be taken, likely four quarterbacks will be taken before us. Somebody will take Levis, somebody will take Richardson, and
oh yeah,
obviously the others are going to go. So if that pans out, top four are gone. All right, there's going to be four other people that are going to be there at 8 for us, assuming we don't move up or go back, right?
right,
But if we're there at 8, there are four people that I would be perfectly fine with taking, based on what we've done in free agency so far and what I hope what I expect we'll do. We're not necessarily going to have like the big splash signings or anything like that. I think that's pretty much done with.
yeah,
But adding a linebacker, adding D line, adding a cornerback, whatever, because we're going to probably do that a little bit regardless. But just what we've done so far, I trust that because Pitts is a beast. I don't care. I've seen so many people on Twitter is like, what happened to Pitts and this and that and the other. But you bring in Jonnu Smith, you get a quarterback that can actually get him the ball.
right.
Not to say that Ritter won't have bad passes. I had some
Of
guy
course he will.
argue with me like, this guy's trash and showing me the same pass over and over again where he missed a guy.
It's
And I'm
like
like,
one pass, dog. I could show
yeah,
you 10 or 15 Lamar Jackson passes that look just
yeah.
the same.
But get him a guy that can get him the ball, he'll be fine. Because when he had Matt Ryan, the guy who could get him the ball, he was a beast. All
Yep.
right, he comes back, he's going to be a beast. Drake London, a lot of people didn't like that signing. That dude, it turned, especially towards the end of the year when Ritter came in and they had
Yep.
they had that thing, they had the it
Yep.
between
That
them.
connection.
He blew up. So now you bring him back. You add in Jonnu Smith to that. Whoever you get in as wide receiver 2, whether it's in the draft, whether it's in free agency, whatever, doesn't
Target
really
four.
matter.
Target four.
Target 4, whatever the case may be. But whoever you get to be that next target, as long as you just keep adding to it, whether it's Bijan Robinson now is your target 4 because he's apparently really great coming out of the backfield and he can line up in the slot and all this jazz. Whether you get Gonzalez or Witherspoon or Jalen Carter or whoever, I trust that this team will make the right call because so far in their number 1 picks,
They've done
in
pretty good.
their round 1 draft picks, they've done good.
Yeah.
They've picked studs, so I'm not worried about that.
Right now, I'm kind of leaning towards what Charlie Woodward is saying here. Gonzalez across from AJ with Bates and Grant's behind him signed me up. That's like right now, that's kind of where I'm leaning. Like the more I see of Christian Gonzalez, no, he doesn't fit their height, weight, whatever profile of a cornerback. But again, they drafted Pitts at 4. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that like Christian Gonzalez is like has blown me away at every step of the process so far. I know Witherspoon. It's a real big toss up between Witherspoon and Joey Porter as to like who the next best cornerback is. But I think Christian Gonzalez is like he wouldn't bother me one bit.
Yeah.
Like I think that would be great. Like it wouldn't necessarily be the super sexy pick, but I think it would be an amazing pick. Now some folks have talked about like Skorinsky or whatever at 8. I don't know if I want to draft and I know I'm over here talking about they drafted a tight end at 4. I personally don't know if I'd want to draft a guard at 8 because that's what
Well,
Skorinsky, that's what he profiles as a
yeah.
guard. He's got short arms and
but if he comes in and he's as plug and play as what we've heard, and you literally plug him in and he's essentially the new Lindstrom,
then yeah, it won't take long for me to shut up and be like, boy, they know more about football than I do.
You
Because
know, yeah, because you put another. I'm not saying he will be, but you put a guy like Skoronski, if he even comes close to being the next Lindstrom, like Lindstrom 2.0, and even comes close to being as good as him. Uh, Now you have those two kind of guys flanking Dahlman, who I think is going to get better. And you got McGarry on the right side, who I think, again, will progress with his pass blocking. I don't think he'll ever be a great pass blocker, but I think he'll get better and
no,
better. And then you got Jake Matthews as your anchor over on the left hand side. And I think when you do that, that offensive line takes another step forward this year. That run blocking is going to be really good. The pass blocking is going to get better, and you're going to have a guy that is not necessarily the Marcus Mariota run to run guy. You get a guy that's a little more run to pass,
right,
like scramble to pass kind of
right.
guy, who will take off on you from time to time. But I think that's what Ritter's going to end up being, and that's going to be so good.
Oh yeah. All right. So this is a good segue. Todd just asked us, can you tell me why no open competition for QB? They're handing it to Ritter.
They
Now,
believe in him.
yeah, okay. But I'm going to give you the long short of it. If I had to really stop and think about it, I don't think Henneke was actually supposed to say what he said. Like, if I don't think anybody told him not to, but I'm pretty sure they would have preferred him, keeping his mouth shut.
He
As
said it
far
twice
as
though. He said
I
it
know,
twice though.
I
So if
know.
you, if the first time was a flub, PR gets to him and is like, "Hey, don't be talking like that." You already said it. I get it, but we from here on out let's
Well,
leave
it's
that
like the
alone.
only reason why I say
He
that,
said it twice.
you go from Combine Terry Fontenot standing up there, and the day before Arthur Smith saying we both of them said we're not anointing anything. You know,
Yep.
he's done some good things for us. Yada yada yada. Gave you the coach GM speak, and then the first time they stick a microphone in front of Henneke's mouth, he's like, "Oh yeah, man, I'm just grateful to be here. Going to try to help Ritter be the best quarterback he can be. They made it clear what I was coming here to do." And you're just like, well, that's vastly different than what was, coming out of their mouths.
That's a
But
smoke screen, man.
yeah, well, you got your first like taste of it from Tom Pelissero's tweet, saying that like when we signed Henneke, like in his tweet, he said like that Ritter was named the starter,
Mm-hmm.
and like it makes sense. I don't like you look at what they did with Richie Grant. You look at what they've done with like the development plan. They straight up and down have said more than once like they would much rather their guys sit for a year and learn and then before they get thrown into the fire. Because anytime that they have had to talk about a rookie starting, that's how they described it. Well, they're getting thrown into the fire. And you saw it like work with Pitts, not work with Jalen Mayfield, work with Drake London, not necessarily work with Darren Hall too much.
Mm-hmm.
So they've had varying success. And then from Jump Street, they said that they liked the Kansas City model where Patrick Mahomes sat for a year and then came in and played. So I personally think that this was the approach all along when they drafted Ritter last year. They drafted the guy who fit what they wanted to do. They
Mm-hmm.
got lucky in a sense, and everybody viewed the quarterback position last year as being down, so they were able to get him in the third round. I think and I could be making this last part up, so don't quote me. I don't want to see no quote on Twitter saying had JR said this. I actually think that they said something. I thought I remember reading a report that they were willing to move up for Ritter, but was glad that they didn't have to.
Yeah.
I could be that could have been for a different player. My mind is telling me that's for Ritter, but I could be completely wrong. So, uh, with that being said, I think that Ritter is going to come in and be solid to like to be average or a little above, which right now in this next year, that's kind of really all we need. With the way they're wanting to run this offense, through the running backs and everything else. At least that's my thoughts. I think that this was the plan all along.
I mean, look, I think potentially, this is all conjecture. I haven't even heard any. I mean, I think I've read it somewhere, but uh, you know, this could be a situation where we were like, we're not sure on, we really like him, but we're not crowning him. We're not giving him anything, yada, yada, yada. And maybe that spooked Carolina. And they're like,
Oh, made them feel like they had to move.
They had to move. If they wanted a quarterback this draft, they had to move.
Right.
Because maybe they thought we would try to, but maybe we don't, who knows. But I don't necessarily take anything that's said, especially in press conferences when it's talking about, the future of the franchise and things like that. I don't take anything at face value when it comes to coach speak, to GM speak,
Nope.
to any of that, because they'll say, everybody's trying to play games. Everybody's trying to mislead everybody. Everybody's trying to mislead the other teams because nobody wants anybody to know what their intentions are. At least the smart ones. Some coaches don't care and they get by with it, and that's fine. And other coaches do, and they don't get by with it, and that's fine too. It happens. But at the same time, like, every coach would like to have as much secrecy about what they're doing and what they would like to do as they possibly can get. So when he comes through and he's saying, this and that and the other, I just based on what I saw and based on things that I had heard them already talk about, to me, it made the most sense. It wasn't even anything that was told. It was kind of told in conjunction with the quarterback talk, which was, regardless of whether it's Desmond or anybody else, we need to build the team.
Right.
And so that whoever is the quarterback there can be as successful as they could possibly be. So that we're putting them in a position to be as successful as they can be. And I think that's the plan. They got a guy who they're comfortable with.
Yep.
Like they liked him coming out of college. They were trying to hold him back as long as possible to let him just soak everything in, get used to the NFL, get used to the playbook, try to get all of that stuff down. And obviously they were testing him and seeing, like, could he, memorize the playbook like he's supposed to? Could he do all the things that you're supposed to do as a quarterback? And it took him time to get to that point because he was having his wife sit there and, go flashcard him and, and doing all that stuff, trying to get better with the memorizing of the playbook. So, all that stuff wasn't in place until later in the season. And then they made the move. And personally, like, first game against the Saints, one of the better defenses in the league. And he struggled. He had some bad throws, couldn't get things really going, but he didn't. He looked like a rookie quarterback in the first game of his NFL career with a subpar roster against one of the better defenses in the NFL. That's what he looked like to me. And you go and you don't even have your top weapon. Pitts is gone. The only legit weapon you actually had was Patterson and Drake. Those were your two, like, in the passing game. And even Patterson's not really a legit target in the passing. He's more of we're going to throw a screen, we're going to throw whatever, and just try to get him into open space somewhere. But at each game he progressed. Each game he got better. He very rarely puts you in a bad position as a quarterback by putting the ball in a bad spot. He threw some some early passes that could have been intercepted. They weren't.
Yeah.
But he still never threw an interception in his first 4 games, which is very rare for any rookie quarterback, period. I don't care who you are.
Yeah, I completely agree. But in a sense, like, not that I 100% agree or whatever, but the statement is somewhat true. If Ritter isn't on fire by week 6, I don't think if they didn't move off of Mariota, they're not going to move off of Ritter that quick. But in a way, that's why you did bring in Tyler Heinicke, because if for whatever reason, like, the wheels completely and utterly fall off, Heinicke has won some games. He, like, as they say here, Tyler beat us last year. Don't sleep on Henneke.
Yep.
I just don't think it's an open competition going into the season, as I don't think it needs to be. But they got a backup quarterback who's been in the situation before of coming off the bench and leading the team on some wins and almost beating Tom Brady in the playoffs. But if Henneke was the truth, as we like to say, like, Washington wouldn't have let him go, and they wouldn't have been planning to either eventually get in on Lamar Jackson or hand the keys to Sam Howell. So that's that's the deal there. I like Henneke. I loved that signing for our backup because, yes, if Ritter does, like, just absolutely crap the bed, then you have somebody who is competent, and then you'll be in position, or not position maybe, but you'll have a better team, and you can then afford to give up assets to go get a quarterback next year if that's what you think you need to do. This
Yep.
question is going to continue coming up for a while. He says,
No.
yeah, is Coach Smith on the hot seat if this year goes bad? No, I don't think so. I
No.
really don't. Like, unless the only way I could see it happening, the only way, is if everything absolutely falls apart and there is reports of infighting and everything just turns toxic. But,
Yeah.
like, you saw the comments from Janu Smith, as far as, like, Arthur Smith was the one that got him paid, from New England. And, he's super excited to reconnect with him. You heard the comments from Henneke wanting to come here and play. So I don't think, like, we as a fan base are looking at it as year 3. I really think that they're really looking at this as year 1. They want to see
Yes.
improvement,
Yeah.
obviously. But the people who run this team, whether it's McKay, whether it's Blank, they're not idiots in the sense of they knew what this coaching staff was coming into. Uh, the GM is definitely not on the hot seat. If
G-
anything,
uh,
he should be given an award for how he's structuring these contracts.
yeah.
Uh,
The GM. I'll say this: if everything that happened, the way Jr. talked about, we're talking dissension in the ranks, completely toxic locker room, just everything, Bobby Petrino level of bad. Okay, let's say that happened. Okay, yeah, you get rid of Arthur Smith. You know what? Terry Fontenot didn't pick Arthur Smith.
nope, nope,
Okay, so that's not on him if that happens.
right,
Okay,
and
and even if it was, okay, the GM, the first head coach, even sometimes the second head coach, is never the downfall of a GM, almost, or very very rarely.
right.
Yeah, so there's almost no reason in the next probably 3 to 5 years that Terry probably has to, unless he just severely does some really crazy
And you
bat
got to think,
ish
John,
stuff.
John H. That it's really funny. You're John Holder. He's John H. Anyway,
it's
John
it's my
H. in the
burner it's my
comment.
burner account.
That's right. That's right. You're just really wanting to get me fired up. That's what it is. But you have to think that, uh, like, the GM's job is to bring in good players, right?
Mhm.
And even through the first 2 years, with no money whatsoever, the most historic dead cap space, and all, or, dead cap hits and all this other jazz, he was able to bring in and field a roster that the coaching staff then took to 7 wins. Oh,
Mhm.
why is that a big deal? Because it was a bad roster. Like, the beginning of the season, we were picked to get 2 wins, and we
Yeah.
got 7, and we were in every game but one.
Yep.
So, uh, no, neither one of these guys are on the hot seat. Definitely not, and definitely not the GM. In my opinion. Let's see. King says, good fellas, what's going on? Oh,
What up, King?
we just talking football.
Now we just
Uh,
chopping it up here.
that's right. Uh, Evan says, anyone noticed every defensive player made a play on Derek Carr? I do like that was the highlight for Jesse Bates, was
Yep.
intercepting Derek Carr. If there wasn't a little jab poke there, then that's what it was. I agree with Dre. Nobody is on the daggum hot seat. Nope,
Yep.
not yet. Like maybe at the end of next season,
Are
maybe.
like whatever's going on right now. Now, I'm not saying they had like in year 3 we're going to pick up Jesse Bates, but the overall the way this whole process has gone from year 1 to 2 to now 3, or pre or off season heading into year 3, like this was this was something that along with Terry Fontenot, this was the plan that was given to Arthur Blank.
Right.
Obviously the specifics change and players change, but the overall direction and like how they want to get to a clean slate. Let's get some money so we can actually start to build the team. That's what they wanted, and that's
Uh-huh.
what they told Blank, and Blank is down with it. So
Right now, here's like this statement here, I think is where a lot of this angst is coming from. Okay. And not just for John. I think this
yeah,
is like the root of a lot of like Falcons fans is just feels like, Thomas Den made Terry's honeymoon period shorter. Blank isn't getting any younger. Okay. Here's the deal. Like for fans, this is something that has bothered me quite a bit for a long time. When I get into like space chats on Twitter or listen to other people's podcasts and stuff like that, it seems like we want to. I don't know if y'all have ever heard this concept before. It's a biblical concept of the sins of the father being brought forward. Okay, uh, like visited on the third and fourth generation. Right. If any of y'all read this is like something that happens quite a bit in the early parts of the Bible. They talk about the sins of the father, and I think that this is almost like what's happening here is that we're taking what other old regimes and old coaching staffs, the old team has done, and laying it at the feet of Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith and saying that, oh, because this team was like this, you now have different expectations.
mhm.
And I myself try not to do that. I'm not saying that's what John's doing, but that's like the feeling that I get is that, oh, well, Quinn went to the Super Bowl in his second year. We ain't even made the playoffs. There's a problem. We need to fire everybody. Or
Mhm.
uh, Dimitrov was bad at being a GM and handing out contracts, big contracts that we shouldn't be handing out, or bringing in not so great free agents. So now I'm going to question everything that Fontenot does. As to where I think you need to, as fans, we need to step back and look at it as, okay, this is a new team. Like this team started 2 years ago. And let's judge them on what they have done. They had to get out, they had to get out from, underneath bad contracts and things like that, or just heavyweight contracts. They got out from under them, and now they're starting. They're getting going. I think this
Yep.
year, this offseason is the first year that they've really been able to flex their muscles, and you're seeing it. Like you're seeing like the GM side product of that. You're getting Jesse Bates. You're getting, Onyemata. You're getting Ellis. You're getting, and also you got to keep in mind, like Jonathan alluded to earlier, Terry Fontenot did not hire Arthur Smith. So it took
Yep.
them a little while to get on the same page and figure each other out and figure out, he had to figure out what his coaching staff wanted and what the scouts, how they operated. So I don't know. I know that probably I'm going to step off the soapbox now, but I would just say give them a little bit more grace. You know what I'm saying? Let's see. Uh, there was some other stuff that okay. Let's see. Ghost Pepper says, "What's good, P for P? JR, you are right. Thank you. I don't even know what I'm right about yet, but thank you. In order to be successful, common sense, you got to build a team for success, which is exactly what Fontenot's trying to do. Right.
yeah.
Um, that's exactly right in my opinion. Tony Wright says, I don't believe the Jets will get rid of Elijah Moore. I don't think so either. It'll either be Corey Davis because of his salary or Denzel Mims. That could be like, yes, we were trying by reports we were in on Darius Slayton, but that could also be eyeing like future cuts. Just because we don't land somebody a position this week doesn't mean we can't land one going forward. Sorry, I'm kind of blazing through some of these. So if you got something you want to add in on it, you just have to let
All
me
right.
know.
No, I
Uh,
got you.
okay. King 7 says, does Smith scare you guys with his vanilla type play calling on offense? I still want to see if he has some tricks up his sleeve. Smith has pretty predictable plays a good bit of the time.
I'll step in. I think that especially the first 13 games of the season. All right, before Ritter got in, and even when Ritter first got in there, you got to remember he's a rookie. So even though he's had all season to look at the playbook and all this other stuff, he's still not. There's probably some place he's better at executing than others, and what have you. But I think honestly, the one of the main reasons why some of the times it may have looked more vanilla than other times is simply Mariota just couldn't do some of the things he wanted to do. Or when he tried to get him to do it, whether it was taking the deep shots, the man was historically bad with deep shots, just could not hit them. So, some of the stuff that he wants to do, he was kind of hamstrung with the guy that was there, and he was trying to do the best he could with what he had. So that's my thought process on it. I think also, as we go through this offseason and Ritter gets better and gets more reps, I think it will start to open up more. But he doesn't necessarily want a high flying offense either. No. He wants to pound you into the dirt.
Right. He wants a ball control balanced offense. That's what he had in Tennessee. It looked like amazing because of guys like Derrick Henry and AJ Brown, which I think is there were times, especially the first 6-7 games of the season, that this offense was the most efficient offense, most potent and efficient offense in the NFL. And you say, oh, well, all the teams caught up to it. Yeah, they caught up to it, but they still weren't able to really stop it all that often, especially if you, like Jonathan pointed out, if you had a more consistent passer, which hopefully that's what we have now, right? Assuming that that's what Ritter will give us for a full season as a more consistent passer. I'll say this, in the 4 games that Ritter was under helm or at the helm, Drake London almost matched his over half of his production that he'd had all season. So that should kind of tell you something there. But legitimately, I'm about 45 to 50 plays deep, which is almost the entire game of the last game of the season, drawing the routes ran by the offense and from the packages that were run. This is not a vanilla offense, by any stretch. Mm-hmm. The things that what you may consider to be vanilla is that we run out in a heavy personnel quite a bit. But what we do out of that heavy personnel is not a normal. We don't just line up and run the ball every time. You have different guys leaking out here and there out in space, different packages and concepts. I'm slowly working through that. Before the season starts, I'm going to have a better breakdown on Smith's offense, because I think that's a feeling that a lot of fans have, is that this is a vanilla offense. And to be honest with you, I'm doing the research to disprove that. Now, whether I come out with a disapproval or not, we'll see. But, during my downtime, that's part of something that I'm looking at. I don't think it's nearly as vanilla as people like to act like it is.
Well, and I will say this: when you look at that last game, probably the last couple of games, really, there were definitely times where I saw plays that either Mariota couldn't make, didn't see, didn't have whatever, but he just didn't have the anticipation. I'm not sure, but you saw Ritter throwing with anticipation. You saw him throwing guys open, not waiting for them to fully clear a linebacker and hit the ball's out of his hands. And where he's throwing the ball, that he's throwing it to the spot where the wide receiver will clear that linebacker. He's not waiting for it to happen. And I think Mariota in a lot of cases was waiting for guys to be open. You can't be successful a lot of the time when you're waiting for guys to be open. Sometimes you just gotta.
I can tell you that I can tell you that from my limited playing of Madden. Good Lord, I look vanilla out there playing that stuff. But no, like I said, I think uh, from year one to year two, Arthur had to almost completely reinvent his offense. He came out with a different formation than he's, I think, ever really used, which was the power pistol formation to better help his quarterbacks,
Mhm.
see the field and make the reads easier for them, whether it was Mariota or Ritter. And once Ritter got in, you actually saw a good bit more of the passing concepts open up even more so. Now with like Dr. Anonymous over here says the addition of Janu will probably help him transition to the variety of from play to play, especially with play action and screens. That is definitely the thing. Is like what, just like with what what offense, well, a lot of offensive coordinators want to do is be able to hit you with multiple different plays with a bunch with the same formation. If
Or
I
same
can,
personnel.
right? If I yeah, same personnel. If I can run the same personnel out there and force you to declare what you're doing on defense and then change it up either post snap with or pre snap with motions, which Arthur Smith uses a ton of motions, like pre snaps with motions or post snaps with like having guys block and then leak out. Whether it was Pruitt or back in his Tennessee days with Janu or not, like these things are what make Arthur Smith's offense interesting and deadly. It's not the Kansas City Chiefs with a ton of bunch formations and doing pirouettes in the middle of the field before they make their play.
That is
But
cool, though. I will
I mean,
say
I'm not saying it's not cool. That's not what I'm stating here. I'm just saying it's
that.
a different style offense. Um, D Drum says, "Do you guys think we still need a 4-3 speed running back?"
No.
I don't know if I say need a 4-3 speed running back. I need somebody with some 4-3 speed. Like I'll say that because I need somebody who is going to scare the defense to get them out of uh like condensed boxes, right? I need somebody, whether it's Zacchaeus going back to taking tops off the defense like he did when he first got it with us, because that's what his skill set really is, or if it's like there's a report that that Tajay Spears, the speedy running back out of Tulane, has a meeting with the Falcons. Like Arthur Smith has said that he needs more speed.
Yeah.
He's got to have it because you got to be able to make the defense respect the entire field.
But
You
now,
know,
if we're specifically talking about
right,
a running back who runs 4-4, a 4-4, or even a 4-5.
right,
Okay, a running back who runs a 4-5, if he gets a good enough, he's not just going to straight outrun everybody. But Michael Turner was not that guy. He wasn't going to straight outrun people, but he would get to the holes fast enough. He had good initial burst that he would get enough of a lead that you couldn't catch him unless you were trying to run him down for the whole field.
right.
And that's the kind of guy that I would like to have. It doesn't have look. If we can get a guy that's as big as somebody like Tyler Algier that can run a 4-3, by all means.
Perfect. Yeah, sign him up.
But the chances of you that is exceedingly rare. So I like to have a Tyler Algier that can pound you, run out, get off 20, 30-yard runs on occasion. And then I would like to have a guy that you could then stick back there when after we've softened above some, that can again, guy runs a 4-4-5,
Right.
guy who runs a 4-4-5, that's still world class speed. And you get out there and burst through that hole that they're tired of tackling Algier for so long. That hole hits. If you can hit it and
Yep.
you can get through into that secondary real quick, like that 4-4-5 guy is going to get a touchdown the same as a 4-3 guy.
Yep.
So I'm not too worried about
My
4-3
big
speed.
thing is there were a few times last year, and that's my only knock with Algier, is there were a few times that in the open field where he busted through and got to the open field, you could just tell he didn't have that pull away gear. And like He didn't have what I call that long speed, and that's what I would like is a guy with long speed.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be fast speed, but I want a guy who, when he gets out in the open field, he can really pull away. Uh, let's see. Ghost Pepper says Arthur Smith has been starving because we have been unable to give him a hot plate. We finally give him one, and now we want to tell him you got 10 seconds to eat. Right. In a sense, like you couldn't do much. Well, like with what you had, and now that we're finally able to do something, everybody wants a production now. But we're fans. That's the whole thing is that uh, fans like Dre says here, fans are not patient. We want a championship, quick, fast, and in a hurry. Yes, we're not, but it takes it takes patience. Fred has a good point. Like Pitts has 4.3 speed, so if you can get back to being able to every now and again split him out wide like that, there's your speed.
Wait, say it again.
Talk about Pitts has 4.3
Oh,
speed.
yeah. Well,
So
I think it's 4-4, but
yeah, it's
yeah, I
four
mean,
four, but still, like
yeah,
he's yeah. Um, let's see. Reggie says, anybody watch Tajay Spears highlights? Look, guys, all y'all got to
yeah.
do is go to YouTube, type in Tulane versus USC. You will see like a showcase of Tajay Spears. And then if you really want to, try to find some of the like practice film from the Senior Bowl. He was making everybody look silly. Uh, let's see. DeAndre Prince could be a late round or undrafted. Big dude, 4.41. Uh, yeah, they're going to add a running back straight up, whether it's the
Yeah.
draft or whether they sign somebody. They're adding a running back. That's just all there is to it. Uh, so y'all should just. I know
Yeah.
everybody's like, oh, why do you need to add a running back? Because you got CP84 and you got Tyler Algier. Yeah, but this is running back by committee, and you're gonna probably add one every year.
Cordell Patterson, I think in a perfect world for Arthur Smith, Cordell Patterson this coming season might have 4 or 5 rushes a game.
Yeah, I think he's going to be like technically speaking, like if they don't add a receiver, it wouldn't surprise me one bit if Cordell is your wide receiver 2 or target 3 or target 4,
Yeah.
and he gets split out with guys like I appreciate that GA Faithful stopping through to show support. We
Yep.
appreciate that. Um, but with guys like Jared Bernhardt still on here, like Frank Darby still on the team, those guys could take a step, and they may not be as nearly as worried about the fourth wide receiver option as we tend to be.
Yeah, I like Burkhart is an interesting. Like, I want to see him in a situation where he gets more time to develop with Ritter, because
Yeah.
like he's a guy that I could see absolutely being a slot type of guy that just runs like little, the speed outs,
Yep.
the whip routes, the just things like that that can if he's, I haven't watched a ton of him, but if he's got like that kind of
Quick
quickness,
twitch. I mean,
that quick
he's a
twitch,
lacrosse dude. I think he's got that, and he's a guy who definitely could uh, make a
yeah,
big leap next year
yeah,
for sure. Uh, let's see. There's a lot of good backs in this draft. Tony's talking about Zach Chardonnay, Tajay Spears, Ken Mitchell. There's uh,
whether it's Bijan Robinson,
right,
Gibbs, Charbonnet, Tajay Spears, there's a bunch of guys that
McIntosh out of Georgia. There's a
Kenny.
right.
I would love if we get to third, fourth round, and assuming you've gotten some guys early on, like whether it's Christian Gonzalez, I would love somehow if he fell, but like Tyree Wilson, like honestly, if Jalen Carter and Tyree Wilson are there, I might pick Tyree Wilson. Because
Depending.
That dude is got some crazy
Like if you,
traits.
yeah, I say if you're
Oh
betting on
man,
traits, like he's a guy for traits.
yeah,
Um, let's see. Well, we're gonna start wrapping this thing up. Don't go nowhere. I'm just kind of giving y'all a heads up. So if y'all got a question, throw it in chat because I want to start like rapid firing some of these. King says, "Do you guys want a wide receiver or edge signing before the draft? Who would it be?" I personally would like an edge guy,
yep,
and right now I would like either. I personally would like Yannick Ngakwe. Is who I would enjoy as an edge guy, but there's also Dwayne Smoot and Contavia Street. So,
yep.
uh, Jonathan, what's your on that question
Uh,
there?
I mean, I'd be okay with either, but I would like to see an edge. Whether and I'm kind of I would like to see Ngakwe, but I wouldn't mind Frank Clark as kind of a vet guy to try to help some of the younger guys. Who's a guy who's not only won and has been successful in the league, but he's won Super Bowls. He's got that experience. He knows what it
Right,
takes. So like a Frank Clark, while he may not necessarily give you the production, like individual production of an Ngakwe, um, Frank Clark could give you like almost the Dwight Freeney experience of just being a good mentor for these younger pass rushers.
right.
Would be a thought there, but I would be happy with either one of those guys. I would probably prefer Ngakwe,
Yep.
but I would take either one of those guys in a heartbeat. And yeah, Catavia Street would be fine as well. But I
Yeah.
think I would like to see an edge before the draft. But we'll
That's
see
where
how it
I'm at
turns
too.
out.
Let's see. Brandon Levy says, Kalgia Chansey,
Kalijah,
Kalijah Chansey. Thoughts? I know that he's been like blowing up the circuit as far as like did really good at the combine. I think he had a really good. I think Pitts had their pro day, had a real good pro day. Um, like he's a guy who I haven't done a lot of film study on yet, but he's a name that I see that I continue to see pop up. So that leads me to think that uh, he's probably like late day 2, early day 3 guy at this junction of the draft process. And um, I don't know if after getting David Onyemata, I know that Chansey is a interior guy. I don't know
mhm.
how many more interior guys you want to add. Um, that's a lot of penetrating three techs, which
I
I think
mean,
is what it is.
to me, it sounds like I will say that if either one of two things, if Carter doesn't fall, or for whatever reason the staff just doesn't believe in him, okay,
Right.
which is they just
Possible.
either they were in love with him and then they fell out of love with him, whatever the case may be. If they don't pick him and we get to pick, we get to our second pick, and we either, especially if we went edge in the first. If I'm going defensive line again, and he's available, I want Sayake Ika.
Yep.
That's the
Yep.
guy I want because he could be your Siragusa type guy that
He
just
could be your
stays.
true nose. Yep. It could be your
Yep,
true nose who also has some pass rushing chops. He's
yep.
this year's
Oh yeah, and
Johnny at UNC.
we don't hear the name Brian Breesy. Like
Right.
that guy. I don't know
He's
what happened to him after the combine. Like whether his stock went up, down, what have you.
it's
But
kind of went like initially he was up in the top 10, but he's kind of settled in a lot of people's mocks. He's kind of settled at in the mid range, like the 15, 16, 17 range. So that's where a lot of people have got him slotted, but I wouldn't be against having Brian Breesy myself. All right, King. It says, y'all might hate me, but I think we shouldn't get Carter. Something just rubs me the wrong way on what happened. I know he's a talent, but something just don't sit right. That's the thing. It's like he had a chance to put a lot of that combine stuff to rest, and it didn't. And
yep.
unfortunately for him, now that's going to follow him into the draft process. Um, so let's see. I think okay. Fred Bus says, "Do y'all think we plan on trading up for Carter now that our needs are met?" No, I don't think we. If we were to trade up, it would have been for a quarterback, and they've pretty much come out and said they're not messing with a quarterback this year.
Yep.
They're going with Ritter, so I don't. I think we
Yeah.
sit pat.
I think if we were going to trade up for a Carter, say to 3 or 4 or something like that, if we
Yeah,
were going to go that route, he would have had. he would have had to blow, like do what we thought he was going to do at the combine, or at the very least his pro day, and blow you away.
Right.
At the pro day, you're overweight, you're out of shape, you're not finishing your drills, you're winded, all those things. And I see a lot of people like, people try to pick on this young man. Like, no, this is a business.
That's
This
it.
is a job
At the
interview.
end of the day.
He didn't show up for his job interview
All right.
properly.
At the
I,
end of
I
the
don't
day,
hate the kid.
no, I don't hate
kid
him.
at all.
Uber talented.
I feel real bad for his situation. But at the end of the day, this is a business, and he didn't show up to this job interview essentially the way he should have. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, like okay, out of your Falcon mind has a good point. It says like I chalk Carter's up to have a really rough few months. I get it. We've all been there. Every one
Yep.
of us have had bad time. Like I said earlier, you can't ignore the film. You can't discount the film. So he's going to have to, like when these teams have them in for their top 30 interviews, he's gonna have to blow them away. Because right now in the public eye, in the court of public appeal that we have right now, he's got a black eye. And he's lost his chance in our circles. Not that our circles matter, but in our circles and in our talking points, he's lost his chance to really wow people. So now he's going to have to do it behind closed doors at private workouts. Nick says Derrick Henry, no thank you. Too much money on the wrong end of his career.
Too much, too much tread on
it's
the
just
tires.
that's just is what it is. I love Derrick Henry as a player. I don't want that saddled around me. Nolan Smith, I like Nolan Smith, but not at 8. And I think you're going to have to get him in the first. So if somebody blows us away and we're back in the teens, early 20s, then Nolan Smith, like all day long. Big Al, we just talked about. Okay. He said nobody talked about Nolan Smith. That's what we're doing. But all right. We are almost at an hour and a half.
Yes, we are.
I got to get out of here. I'm sure Jonathan has to get out of here.
I need some dinner.
You need some dinner. I need to go hug my family. My family loves me, and I love all y'all. Appreciate y'all being in here with us.
Yes.
As always, y'all can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Grim1128, GRIMM1128. Jonathan?
At Jonathan M. Holder. Come say hi. And I just want to say it's been a great show. Yep. I love chatting and chopping it up with you guys. And we'll probably be doing a lot of, in my mind, this is what I want a lot of this off season to be. Now, it may get a little repetitive here and there, but that's fine. Because not everybody's going to catch every show, and so some of the questions may get asked in multiple streams. So, but I do really like chatting with you guys. It's been a blast, and I can't wait to do it some more. And we'll be back with you guys at the very least next Tuesday.
That's it. And this is going to take place of our Friday show or Friday Saturday show, so there won't be one this weekend. We did 3 shows this week because of free agency, so that's going to cover that for us. So we will be back again next Tuesday. So anyway, y'all take it easy, and as always, Falcons fans, rise up.
Rise up.